Hello YouTube and welcome to GrunfWorks. Today we are taking a look at the Kerbal Space Program Enhanced Edition for PlayStation 4 Europe region. Well, if you have just landed on this video, I'm assuming that you are either a new player or a new console player, or that you have been living under a rock and might not be familiar fully with what Kerbal Space Program is and how it plays. So that's why in this video I will briefly explain what is KSP, a little bit of UI, how it plays, and we will be then later assembling a small rocket and launching it. So without further ado, what is Kerbal Space Program? Kerbal Space Program, or in short KSP, is a game where you take on little green men called Kerbals, the ones that you can actually see on display, and put them into rockets, planes and other dangerous contraptions that you have built to the best of your abilities, and send them off to hopefully explore Kerbal's solar system using real physics and principle of orbital mechanics. This often results in all sorts of hilarious situations, followed by big bangs and fireworks. The game puts you in charge of your own space program, where you can set yourself the goals in the terms of exploring the solar system, building orbital stations and bases on other planets, but the real trick is getting there. You are given a bunch of parts, think like Legos, and it is up to you to assemble these parts into meaningful planes, rockets and spaceships or whatnot, and that will be ultimately take you to the stars or to a fiery demise. This game has been out for PC for several years and for the PS4 in US only although it did not do too well due to clunky controls and many bugs. The Enhanced Edition is essentially a reboot of the console version and the first console release on the European market. I don't know for the Australia, so guys, please post in the comments if it's Australia as well. Right, the KSP has three different modes to play, which you can see now on the screen. One is the career, and that is the default experience with all bells and whistles turned on. Cash, contracts, science, progression, upgrading buildings, researching parts, hiring Kerbals and taking contracts. Science is a little bit more simplified game, which is sort of a middle ground where you still need to explore, collect science and unlock new technologies that will propel you higher, faster and further than any Kerbal has gone before, while still unlocking the tech tree and having some sort of progression. Sandbox is actually exactly what it says. You're giving everything unlocked from start, so just assemble and launch to your heart's content. Of these three, I would recommend the science game for the absolute beginners, and if I will be posting a sort of tutorial series, it will most likely be on the science part. However, let's just go briefly start on the career and let's see how the game works. So, you start at the view of your Kerbal Space, rocket program complex, which you can see right here, and lots of tutorial screens. So we have a bunch of buildings. You have the administration building, which is important for choosing your strategies and maximizing your result. Then you have astronaut complex, which is for hiring Kerbals. Then you have the flagpole, where you can actually choose your flag or change it. Then you have the launch pad, which is for launching your contraptions, mostly rockets though. Then you have the mission control, which is used for finding contracts and selecting contracts. Research and development, obviously, for researching new technologies and upgrading your science. This is why you collect science, so you can unlock new technologies. Then you have runway for launching your planes and space planes and whatnot. Then you have the tracking station, space plane hangar, where you can actually build these planes and space planes. It's also referred to as the SPH shortcut. So if you ever see it, that will be it. Then you have the tracking station, where you can view ongoing mission and actually recovering craft. And finally, last but not least, the vehicle assembly building, where you can actually just assemble your rockets and whatnot. So this is career, and on top of that, note that various buildings will look differently if you play career or sandbox and science, because upgrading building is one of the staples of one of the staples of playing the KSP. So you can see here, if you go, you can actually do upgrades and all that jazz, which will allow you to make further bigger rockets and whatnot. Now, you have three types of currencies, which you see on top. The first one is funds. This is the Kerbal version of cash. And in career, all parts cost cash. Big ships can get quite expensive, and you get cash by fulfilling contracts, making discoveries, and retrieving used rocket parts. And you spend cash on building new rockets and also upgrading your buildings. The second that you see is the reputation. You start with neutral, and as more missions that you perform, more contracts that you do, and more achievements that you collect, you will get a positive. Have some explosions, kill some Kerbals, and it will also can go negative. So that also affects to which missions you get. And the final one is the science, which you can see is currently at 0.0. So this is actually how you advance your technology. So that's enough for how it plays. So let's take a look in terms of how it plays. Strategies I'm not going to show just yet, because currently we need to actually perform the first mission or whatnot. So let's first go and look at the mission control. So as we said here, this is where you can select your contract and whatever are you doing. So we have currently 4 contracts: gather scientific data from Kerbal, so gathering any science for Kerbal, launching the first vessel, escaping the atmosphere, and orbit Kerbal. For the time being, I'm thinking that I'm going to go gather scientific data from Kerbal, and then we're going to launch our first vessel, because those two actually can go hand in hand. Escape the atmosphere, and those are a little more complex, so we will be doing them a little bit later on. Now, currently we can only build a simple rocket, and very simple ones, so I'm gonna go now in the vehicle assembly building, which is actually this guy. And you obviously, for European version, confirm by X, go back by circle. And here is how you build and assemble craft. Up and down with the analog remotes will select the group, and then left or right on the, when you press the X, you will confirm. And actually you can see very few parts now, because we are just starting in the career mode. As you unlock, there will be more stuff. So let's make the simplest ship we can, and that's the Mark 1 command pod. This is where actually our Kerbals will be situated. So since we want to gather scientific data from Kerbal, let's see what the science has. Mystery goo containment unit. Well, this is something where you can actually perform science, so I'm gonna just attach this one here. And I think for the time being, I think we can actually leave it at that. Right. So let's, you can rename the ship by pressing options, and then you can actually rename the craft if you so desire, but I have no desire to do it just yet, because this is too simple craft. So let's just launch it. There we go. And as you can see, we can zoom rotate with the left button, L1 hold, and then right analog. We can zoom in, zoom out, and watch what is going on. Right. So this is our vessel, and if you press the left analog stick in, so L3, you will get a cursor. Then we press here, and we press the little bit the square to bring up the pop-up menu. Let's go observe the mystery goo, and there we have some science. The goo doesn't seem to be doing much now. So that's the 3-point science, and let's keep the experiment. While we are here, we can also press the right thumbstick, or actually the square, to bring up this menu, and we can also do a crew report, which will also net us some very handy science. So let's keep the experiment for the time being. One thing that we can also do at the moment, I think, no, we can't, or can we? Let's see. Pilot, okay, hold on. I'm actually very new to these controls as well, so forgive me if I... yeah, there it is. Okay, perfect. So pilot, let's see if we can do the EVA. Yes, we can. As you can see, we can do the EVA, and that basically means climb out. So we go out, we let go, and then once again we can press the button on this guy, and actually we press the square once again to bring up the menu, do the EVA report. That will also bring us a little bit of science. This is a little bit of initial grind, but and that's normally, I mean, how most of the people start the career. So now let's board this vessel, and I don't think we can launch it per se because it's not being launched. Yes, and if you press the triangle, you will get a menu, and let's just see, select an app, confirm. As you can see, this one says that the contract has been fulfilled. We have performed a first EVA test at home. Perfect. So that one is resolved. Then if we go to the contract, and we will hopefully gather scientific data from Kerbal as soon as we retrieve the vessel. So let's actually do that. Let's recover the vessel. I press the left button, and then brings me into the cursor mode, which is actually switching control types, and as we have recovered the vessel, we should get some science. I'm hoping, at least. There we go. Crew report from the launch pad, EVA report from the launch pad, mystery goo, and recovery of the vessel that survived the flight. You can imagine that that's actually a valid point. Very interesting. Next, parts, Mark 1 command pod, mystery goo, and monopropellant. One crew member recovered, Jebediah Kerman, who is the default, so we have got some reputation, a little bit of cash, and we have fulfilled one contract, which is actually quite nice. So select an app, and if we go here, you can see contract complete, gather scientific data from Kerbal, achieve the goal, and world first milestones. Perfect. However, we have not built or launched any rockets yet, so I'm going to do that just in a second. Let's go first into the research and development, and this is the tech tree. So if you go, here you have the science archives about the solar planet or solar system that you're exploring, and here you have the various nodes that you can unlock. And as you can see, I have 13 science, and this one cost me 5 science, and this one cost me 5 science. So I could, in theory, unlock both of these nodes, and that leaves me pretty much nothing more. Perfect. So I can build more complex rockets. Why would I want to be? Because I'm guessing that I will be getting more complex missions. Oh, I don't think I will until I get further advanced. Okay, well then let's build the first rocket and launch it. But before we do, let's check out the tracking station. I want to show you how these buildings look like. Here you can see this is the Kerbal. This is your home planet. This is where you're starting. It's moon. It's close satellite. Then we have Minmus. Followed by that we have Duna, which is sort of like equivalent of Mars, I would say. So this is actually quite similar of our solar system. Then we have Ike, Dres, Joule, which is the gas giant equivalent of, I would guess, the Jupiter. Its moons, Lathe, Val, Tylo, Bop, Pole, and Ilu. Sun, which is in the center, and Moho and Eve with its satellite Gilly. So this is roughly the solar system that we are talking about. Right. So let's leave the tracking station. This was just a preview, and each of these planets you can come and visit. Right. However, for the time being, the main goal for today is, okay, some loading time. The main goal for today is to launch our first vessel. So let's go into the vehicle assembly building and completely disregard the vehicle that we have just used because, I mean, let's face it, it's nothing extraordinary. So this is how you return the modules that you don't want to use. So we start again with a command pod. Perfect. Then I want to be putting the fuel tanks or in this case I could be putting just an engine, and since it's a very small engine I want to be putting the flea solid rocket booster, and that will propel the rocket up. However, what comes up needs to come down, so you want to go over to the utility and select a parachute. So this is actually how the first rocket looks like. What we could do, if we wanted some more science, we could ultimately put here the mystery goo containment unit, which we have lovingly collected, and we could put also the thermometer, which we have just recently unlocked. There we go, and then hold on, I'm just trying to figure out what would be the, oops, this is wrong. Okay, we have put it anyway, sorry. Right, so we have this one as well. Perfect. I think that should be about enough. Now, if you launch this, what would happen is, I'm gonna show you, if you launch this, note that these two are together. So this is the sequence of when the things are firing. So both the rocket engine and the parachute would fire at the same time. We don't want to do that because rocket will go nowhere. So what we want to do is we want to add one more stage, and we want to be moving this guy here, or hold on, how does this work now? I'm actually still learning the controls, so I do beg your pardon if I'm messing up something. Yeah, so let's go into the, you can press this one and then edit stages. So yeah, here you can now move, select it, and you move it downwards. There you go, and then you exit staging. So that was used by using a triangle. Okay, let's launch this bad boy. This has been going far enough. Note that in the future tutorials I'll be focusing more on the controls, UI, how you get around and stuff, but this is just launching the basics, most basic of the basic. So this is what we are seeing, and this is Jeb, and you can see the stages here in the left corner actually here, and I have moved the nav ball here because I found it more easy. You can find that menu option in the options. So without further ado, I press the circle, which leaves the SAS on, and then I press X to actually stage, and performing the stage means activates the most bottom part of this equation, which is propelling Jebediah Kerman upwards and onwards where no Kerbal has gone before, literally. He will not go too far though, if you can observe, because, well, he's close. Anyway, now what we can do is I'm pressing the cursor, I'm zooming in, and what we can do is we can do some science. So we press here, and come on, how do I do this? Crew hatch, no crew hatch, but the module. There we go. Scrolling down, I can perform the crew report. Perfect. While flying over Kerbal shores. Note that this is not the same thing. What we did is because, well, we are flying. Then we can bring over the thermometer. We can say log the temperature, please. Thank you. We get some science, and note that if we recover, we will get this much science. If we transmit, we will get this much. So I think it's almost better that we recover. Right, so now let's stage and activate the parachute as we are going down. I pressed X once again, and then I am going once again on this guy, and I want to be, oh, not this, I am thinking, yeah, this guy, sorry. Mystery goo. Let's observe the mystery goo while flying at Kerbal. The goo jiggles and wobbles as the craft flies. Perfect. Keeping the experiment. That will bring us some more science and hopefully in the future bring us some more contracts. So this is a very, very basics control, and you actually control your craft by the left thumbstick and the camera by the right thumbstick. You activate the SAS with the circle, brake with square, stage with X, and radial menu with holding the triangle. And here you have edit stages, toggle the docking mode, enable time warp if you need the time to pass quicker, select an app, which is actually quite handy because if you confirm, you can go also here to this guy and it will show you what your controls are. So I think this will be actually very helpful to you. Right, pressing the circle will take you back. Then we can actually use to open map to explore the system, toggle the nav ball, and take a look at the crew. However, we are pretty much done here, and this will also do as for this tutorial. We recover the vessel, and as we recover the vessel, we will be getting some science, we will be getting some cool things, and we will be able to take on new contracts and stuff and advance our gameplay. So we have gained additional 16 science, bringing it to a total of 26. We have retrieved most of the parts, so we are keeping our cash, which is nice. And Jebediah Kerman has returned and he's ready for the next assignment. Perfect. And this is how what the KSP is and how it plays. Note that you are the guy who are setting your own goals in terms and bringing you to all sorts of hilarious situations. This game is really fun, guys. I haven't yet played it enough on the PlayStation 4, whether I could say it or if it makes sense or not. Seems good to me at the moment. But overall, when it comes to if you're thinking of buying the game and you haven't played it still, I would warmly recommend that you get it, because I have sunk well over 3,000 hours into this game and I'm still liking it, I'm still enjoying it. So, that's it, guys. Kerbal Space Program Enhanced Edition for European version of PlayStation 4. Thank you very much for watching. This is GrunfWorks signing off.